Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Sacred Beast deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because we just got an amazing new searcher for this deck, Nightmare Throne, which improves the consistency of this deck by a lot. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 2 copies of Raviel. Raviel is an awesome boss monster. It comes out at 4,000 attack points and 4,000 defense points. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by attributing 3 fiend type monsters, and each time your opponent normal summons a monster, you get to special summon a phantasm token to your side of the field. It's a fiend dark, level 1, 1,000 attack, and 1,000 defense, but it cannot declare an attack. Also, once per turn, you can trade a monster, and this card gains attack equal to trade a monster's original attack until the end of this turn, making this card absolutely massive, which is really cool. But this card is a really easy card to summon out to our side of the field, because we have a bunch of ways that we can actually bypass that tributing 3 fiends effect to be able to just instantly get this card out on our side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Hamon. Hamon's definitely a 2-of in the build, and this card is just a really big boss monster that's actually super easy to summon out on our side of the field, with the ability, if this card destroys an opponent's monster at battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. Also, while this card is face up in defense position, monsters that your opponent control cannot target monsters for attack except this one, and this one has 4,000 defense points, making it super tough for your opponent to get through this card. We then play a single copy of Uriah. Uriah is just a good 1-of in the build, so we can step into our copy of Armital, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. This card is the best normal summon in the entire build because it actually gives us an additional normal summon. And as you know, when this card is normal summon, you can add a Uriah, Hamon, or Raviel, or a card that specifically lists those cards in its text from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is a really cool effect so we can actually search out cards like Opening of the Spirit Gates from our deck to our hand off this card's effect. It also has the ability you can actually normal summon a fiend monster with 0/0 in addition to your normal summoner set, which is a really cool effect to be able to use just to swarm the board with a bunch of fiends. We then play 3 copies of Chaos Summoning Beast. Chaos Summoning Beast is also definitely a 3-of in the build, with a really cool effect that you can tribute this card to special summon a copy of Uriah, Hamon, or Raviel from your hand, ignoring their summoning conditions, making it super easy to summon them out to your side of the field. You can also banish this card in the graveyard to add a Fallen Paradise from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to search out our field spell. We then play 2 copies of Dark Summoning Beast. Dark Summoning Beast is really cool as a 2-of in the deck, because this card helps out a lot in the build, because you can actually tribute this card to special summon out a Uriah, Hamon, or a Raviel from the hand or the deck, ignoring their summoning conditions. Also, monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of the turn. This card also has the ability you can banish this card from the graveyard to actually add one of our Sacred Beasts from our deck to our hand, which is great to instantly search them from our deck to our hand. We then play a single copy of Phantasmal Summoning Beast. I feel like 1 is really all you need for this card, but it's really good in the deck with the ability that you can actually tribute this card and then add one of your Sacred Beasts from your deck or grave to the hand. Then you can actually special summon a level 10 Pyro, Thunder, or Fiend monster from your hand whose attack equals its own defense, ignoring its summoning conditions, but it can attack directly this turn, which is a really cool ability to instantly basically summon out one of our Sacred Beast monsters because they're actually Thunder, Pyro, and Fiend, making it super easy to get them out on your side of the field. This card also has the ability you can actually banish this card from the graveyard to be able to add a Dimension Fusion Destruction from your deck to your hand, essentially getting us our fusion spell so we can summon out our copy of Armital. We then play 3 copies of Gruesome Grave Squirmer. Grave Squirmer is definitely a 3-of in the build. This card is so powerful in the deck and just helps out so much because if you control a Fiend monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from the hand, then you can destroy a U-Bell or one monster that mentions it in the main monster zone. Also, he has the ability you can banish this card from the graveyard and then special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and 0 defense from the hand or the graveyard, except another copy of this card, which is a great ability to instantly get this card out on your side of the field so you can link summon, and it's just a really good extender in the deck. We then play a single copy of Shavara. Shavara is definitely a 1-of in the build for our Unchained package in the deck. This card has the awesome ability during the main phase, if this card's in the hand, quick effect, you can target a fiend monster or a face down card you control and destroy it, and if you do, special summon this card but banish it, but while this card is face up in the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters except for fiends, which is totally fine to lock you into fiend monsters while this card's on your side of the field, because we can easily get it off the field and just link it away. It also has the ability, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can actually set an Unchained spell or trap directly from your deck to your side of the field, making it super easy to set our copy of Abominable Chamber to our side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's definitely a 3-of in the build, just to basically stop the opponent from touching the deck. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Terraforming. We actually play 2 different field spells in this build, so this card is a really good searcher in the deck. We then play a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is great to get the exact monster you want in the graveyard when you need it. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is great as a 1-of in the build just to stop your opponent's hand traps while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play a single copy of Dimension Fusion Destruction. This is an awesome fusion spell that lets us step into our copy of Armatile extremely easily by banishing from our hand, field, or graveyard the fusion materials that are listed on a Phantasmal fusion monster, then special summon that fusion monster from the extract, ignoring its summoning conditions, and you also take no battle damage from attacks involving that monster special summoned by the effect. And if you control a copy of Uriah, Haman, or a copy of Raviel, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, making it a speed spell for fusion spell, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Cerulean Skyfire. Cerulean Skyfire is really good as a 1-of in the build because it has the ability to special summon out your copy of Haman using its own procedure. You can also use face down spells that you control as well, which is a really cool effect. Also, once per turn, while you control an attack position copy of Haman, you can actually negate any spell or trap effect activated by your opponent, then change Haman that you control to defense position, and if a face-up copy of Uriah, Haman, or Raviel you control leaves the field, you take no damage this turn, which is a pretty cool effect. We then play 2 copies of Fallen Paradise. Fallen Paradise is amazing as a 2-of in the build. It is searchable in the deck through a lot of different means now, but I feel like 2 is still really good in the deck because it has the ability that your opponent cannot target your copies of Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or your copy of Armatile in your monster zone with card effects. Also, those monsters cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either, making it even tougher for your opponent to deal with those awesome boss monsters. Also, while you control them, if you control a copy of Uriah, Haman, or a copy of Raviel, or even Armatile, you can actually draw 2 cards, which is great to be able to do that every single turn to give you a draw 2. We then play 3 copies of Nightmare Throne. Nightmare Throne is so powerful in the deck to be able to use this card as a consistency boost for the deck because it has the ability when this card is activated, you can take a fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your deck and either add it to your hand or destroy it. Usually we're just using this card as a searcher to be able to add the exact fiend monster we want from our deck to our hand, which is a really cool effect to basically have more copies of Rhoda in the build. We then play 3 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. Opening of the Spirit Gates is definitely a 3-of in the build, and this card is actually one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck. Then when this card is activated, you get to add one of your Sacred Beasts from your deck to your hand, or a monster that's specifically listed in any of those cards in its text from your deck to your hand. And also, once per turn, you can discard a card to special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your graveyard, basically being a Monster Reborn, which is really, really cool. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. I really like playing this card as a one-of in the build for the Unchained package in the deck. This card lets you special summon an Unchained monster from the hand or grave, and if this effect card is destroyed by a card effect, you can actually special summon an Unchained monster from your deck to your side of the field, which is a pretty cool ability. We then play 2 copies of Awakening of the Sacred Beast. This card is definitely a 2-of in the build because this card is actually insane, and has the ability that this card gains effects based on the number of sacred beasts on your side of the field with different names. If you have 1 on your side of the field, each time your opponent normally special summons a monster, you gain life points equal to the attack of that monster. If you have 2 sacred beasts on your side of the field, you negate the activated effects of monsters that your opponent controls. If you have all 3, any monster sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. And also, once per turn, if you control a level 10 monster, you can add a continuous trap from your grave to your hand, which is a pretty neat effect on this card. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is definitely a 3-of just to stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start with a single copy of the Final Bringer of End of Times. This card actually looks like a fusion between all of the different sacred beasts because it actually has blue, red, and yellow all in this card, which is amazing. This card is a walking negate. It pops cards on the field, and it's absolutely crazy as a level 10 XZ monster that's really easy to make in this build, and it's actually one of my favorite XZs ever made for its artwork alone. We then play a single copy of Gustav Max. Gustav Max is really good to be able to summon to your side of the field because this card does 2,000 points of burn damage and also lets you step into your copy of Juggernaut Leave, which is really good to be able to summon out to your side of the field because it helps you OTK your opponent. We then play a single copy of AA Zeus. AA Zeus is amazing to be able to summon just as a board wipe in this deck. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon's also really good as a 1-up in the build, just to be able to summon out because it's always live in the deck, which is amazing. We then play a single copy of Phantom of Fury. Phantom of Fury is insane to be able to summon. You're always summoning this card first because it has the ability, this card's name becomes Armital while on the field. And also, once per turn, during your main phase, you give control of this card to your opponent, and once per turn, during the end phase, if this card you control was changed this turn, banish all cards that you control on the field, then the owner of this card special summons a copy of the original Armital from their deck, or their extra deck, ignoring their summoning conditions, which is a really cool ability to basically hand this card to your opponent, it board wipes them, and then you get to summon out the original Armital to your side of the field, so you can OTK, as this card goes up to 10,000 attack points. That's why you always make your copy of Phantom of Fury first, hand it to the opponent, then you make this card later in OTK. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Griffin, because you can actually Griffin lock in this build, which is really cool to be able to do. Play a single copy of Unchained Abomination. This card pops 3 cards just because it can, and it's absolutely amazing. If it breathes, it pops cards. This card is really cool, because if a card on the field is destroyed by card effect, you get to target a card on the field and destroy it. When another monster on the field is destroyed by battle, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. And during the end phase, just because, you get to target a card on the field and destroy it. We then play a single copy of Anguish. Anguish lets you link away your opponent's monsters to make another monster, which is super cool. 1 copy of Rage, because we can make it since we are playing the Unchained package in the deck. This card helps you link climb and is a quick effect to actually link summon instead of your copy of Anguish, which is not a quick effect. We then play a single copy of Yama. Yama can search out your copy of Shavara, which is great to be able to do, and I love that about this card. Plus, you can actually use this card as an extender, which is really nice. 1 copy of SP Little Knight. This card is a double interaction with your opponent. You can play Nightmare Unicorn instead if you want to, and it actually might work out better to play Nightmare Unicorn in this deck because it is a Fiend monster, and sometimes you do Fiend lock yourself, so you can change this card out for your copy of Nightmare Unicorn if you want to in this build, but it is a double interaction, which is why I chose to play this card. We can play a single copy of Mudracker because it's how we actually Griffin lock the opponent, but this card is really good in the deck just to bring your Fiend monsters back from the grave. And then finally, a single copy of Alamirage. Alamirage is just a good card in the deck to be able to link away our monsters to the graveyard because they all have 0/0 that are these small monsters outside of our copy of our Sacred Beasts. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Sacred Beast before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's really fun, and I absolutely love playing the Final Bringer of End of Times in the deck because it really does look like it should have been a Sacred Beast card, but they decided just to make it a generic rank 10. So, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.